What's going on, guys? Welcome to the No Excuses Podcast, episode 19. Guys, man, we're running through these, bringing so much value to the table, giving you guys so much knowledge, so much information, so much wisdom. I'm honored to share it with you guys, and I hope everyone is applying it into their lives and just leveling up and bettering their everyday. Today's podcast, it's going to be about friends. And the title is Your Circle of Friends. I think this topic is super important. Like every topic that I bring up, that's the first thing I say because guys, life has many aspects to it, and it's not just, excel in finances or excel with your body or excel with your marriage. Like you really need to excel everywhere. Guys, besides that, let's give a big shout out to my boy Tarun. He's my right-hand man. And that's it, man. What do you think? What do you think about this subject, Circle of Friends? How do you feel about it?
I think there's a lot that you can dive into when it comes to circle of friends because there's just a lot of levels to it. Like, I feel like you hear a lot of people say, the show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. But I think it's even more than just that. Like, the people around you can develop you in ways that you might not even realize. And it can really shape you and shape like the opportunities that come to you, shape the way you look at things. And even on the surface level, just impact just how happy you are as a person in general. So I really think there's a lot to dive into with that topic.
So I started learning about this topic when I was a young man, and as you guys know, like my previous podcasts and stories that I was around, gangs and stuff like that, and then, I've had my fair share of the rough friends, and I'll never forget my dad. He would tell me, show me who your friends, and I'll tell you who you are, and I didn't realize that when I was young. You just hung out with whoever was around you. You know what I mean? Like, I joined Crips when I was 13 years old, not because, I went and seeked them out. They were just the kids in my neighborhood. I was 13. They were 16, 17, 18, and they were the cool ones. So before you know it, these are your new friends. And before you know it, now you're a gang member yourself. And you don't even realize it, but daily you're altering your path because you're hanging around with certain type of people, right? Because they talk a certain way, they act a certain way, they walk a certain way, they have certain beliefs, and for me, starting at a young age, hanging around with gangsters, I ended up being a gangster. Now I was lucky enough to have enough strength to stand on my own 2 feet where I didn't end up getting tattoos. I didn't end up doing robberies and, selling drugs, stuff like that. I was just into the fighting, but I was definitely involved in that life. And I think by the grace of God and a little bit of brains and some parenting, I was able to step out that path and walk away from those friends, and make new friends and make new mentors and create a new mindset that eventually created who I am today.
Yeah. I think as much as anyone wants to believe that their environment doesn't dictate who they are or doesn't affect them, no matter how strong-willed you are, if all you know is what's around you, you will never know any better. And you almost need a lifeline, like good parents or, just one person to kind of show you that there are other options out there other than, the things that you grew up around. There's other kinds of people out there. There's other ways of being and living that you may not have ever known about, you know?
Correct. I feel like, when we talk about friends, at the beginning, I'm talking about these guys are in gangs and I'm joining gangs and whatnot. But as an adult, picking the right friends, the right people to hang around will literally make or break you. You hang around people with a scarcity mindset, right? Who always have a problem for every solution, who always look at the cup half empty, who are always Debbie Downers, who always have something negative to say. Before you know it, you become them. And you might have a good spirit and you might have a good energy about you, but every day that you hang around these people, it will start taking your spirit away. It'll start taking your energy away. And before you know it, you'll also start thinking the same way. And this is not just like friends. This could be watching the news. If every day you watch the news and it's negative, 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 before you know it, you turn to be a negative motherfucker. You turn to be somebody who worries all the time. You turn to be somebody who's full of anxiety and anxious. You know, so it's not just the people that you go and hang out with and have a drink. It's people that you're around. It's what you're listening to. It's the TV that you're watching. It's the podcast that you're listening to. It's the reels that you're hearing. You know, it's everything. And I think back in the days, you know, like, you know, I was born 1980, but, you know, like, so like in the 90s, growing up in the 90s, the saying was, show me who your friends, I'll tell you who you are. But I think now, as I said, your circle of influence is way bigger than your friends, the 2, 3, 4, 5 people you hang out with. Now we're talking about the internet. We're talking about the news. We're talking about the media. We're talking about social media. There's so many different aspects that will freaking propel you forward or drag you down.
Something I've been thinking about, specifically about the internet and social media. Well, first, back to what you said about your circle of influence. It reminds me a lot of, like, if you say you are what you eat, it's not just that, it's everything you consume. So if you're consuming content on the internet that's a certain kind of way, or you're watching things on the news, or just certain topics that continually interest you or whatever, all of those things become you eventually. But the thing about like social media and the internet is the more of something that you consume on it, the more of the same type of content, the more it gives you. So it's almost stops becoming your choice to, like, if you're consuming like some really low quality content, right? Things that are just low effort, it doesn't help you in any way, it's just whatever, you're going to keep getting that and keep taking it in without you even having to try to seek it out. You know, maybe you seek out the first one, but after that, it's just going to keep feeding you the same thing over and over.
You don't even have to seek out the first one. Like, sometimes I'll scroll through reels and just like a random one will pop. And if I look at it more than 3 seconds, now I got 16 of them, you know, and then I have to go and click the button saying I'm not interested in this.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they'll just keep popping up.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy, which brings up, you know, like a different conversation. AI, we can talk about it another day, but, you know, like the computers, you know, the software is becoming your circle of influence. You know, it's changing everything, you know, and it's crazy because, you know, I do a lot of day trading, and, you know, the company NVIDIA, you know, it's one of the biggest companies in the world now.
Huge.
And it's just all about artificial intelligence. Like, from what I understand now, Tesla is looking to come up with a robot, and this robot's $28,000.
Yeah, I've seen the prototypes.
Yeah, it's $28,000, and this thing does everything for you. It'll paint your house, it'll wash your dog, it'll clean your pool, it'll pick up your groceries. You know, it's crazy. So, talking about your circle of influence, I think it's going to be beneficial, but also be detrimental, because people are going to be replacing people with machines eventually. Something that we never thought will come, but it's coming. And then what? Then who's going to be your circle of influence? You know, bunch of fucking machines or what?
You could say the machines already are. Like, if people are your circle of influence strictly because of the amount of time that you spend with them, the amount of time you spend paying attention to them, if you were to compare the amount of time you spend now paying attention to your friends versus the internet, it might be 50-50, you know? And you could even consider whatever this internet persona is, which is basically just force feeding you the same thing over and over again, and sometimes worse. If it's already a persona, the more that it integrates into your life, or the more attention that you pay to it, the more opportunity it has to influence you in maybe ways you don't even know. Because, like, earlier you made the example of like if you grow up around gangsters and stuff, it's very easy to go down that path. But I think even on the more subtle level, like if you're around a lot of people that have a certain part of their personality that maybe is not so noticeable or is maybe not bad on the surface, not good, but it's just a thing, you'll take that on too, you know? Like
Yeah, you'll be a lame motherfucker.
yeah, whatever it is. It could be
one of my
anything.
favorite sayings.
Yes, it is. You gotta get that. If you get a tattoo,
Don't be lame.
Don't be a lame motherfucker. Yeah.
So funny. Anyways, man, yeah, man, that's actually what one of the biggest influences of my life is, that phrase, "Don't be lame." You know, like when I think of my circle of influence, I'm like, I'm not gonna hang around with that lame ass motherfucker. You know, like fucking look at the way he handles himself or she handles herself. Look at their morning routine. Look at how they view things. Look at their energy levels. Look at what they're complaining about. Look at their outlook of life. You know, these are just like people that I try to stay away from because they're like vampires. They're literally like will suck all the energy out of you, you know, and I love being around people who are just like, that were underdogs at one point, right? So they had nothing and they just found the fucking way, right? Because like it motivates me, it inspires me. Like, hey, this guy, you know, like one of my best friends, Vlad, right? Like came from Russia, nine brothers and sisters, you know, like siblings. 0, 0, 0, made something out of himself, made himself a millionaire, created a big company, started a nice family. You know, like that shit turns me on, man. I love that. You know, like the people that I hang around with, I make sure the ones that are really close to me are hardworking people, are dedicated people, are people of code. They have code of ethics. You know, they have integrity, they have honor, and they influence me. You know, even wherever I go, you know, I'm like the leader, right? It doesn't matter. Like these people are around me. And if the people are around me are not doing their jobs, you know what I mean? Then they're just going to bring me down, you know? And it's funny because when I got the 7 Series BMW, I told Vlad, I said, and my other best friend, Brian, I said, motherfuckers, you guys got to level up. You know what I mean? No time for driving fucking these lame ass cars. And they'll start laughing like, yeah. And you know, the thing about all of us is that we're really simple people. Like we all came from nothing. And like all this extra shit is just for fun. Like it really doesn't make us or break us. If we're walking or we're driving freaking Lambos, it's literally irrelevant. It's just fun. Yeah, I mean, like you can, it's hard work, paid off. You know, I'm going to buy myself a toy or whatnot. So I told Vlad, I'm like, bro, I'm like, you need to level up. I'm like you're literally like a millionaire. You're a hardworking man. I was like, why are you driving this piece of shit car? He's like, I don't care. I was like, yes, but you're better than that. You're better than that. You know? He says, you know what? You're right. So he went and bought himself a G-Wagon, right? He got himself a G63. I love it. And I said, how do you feel? He goes, I feel fucking great. I feel great. You know, man, like my mom taught me, says, you know, Yaniv, like, you don't have to wear fancy clothes, but wear a clean shirt. You don't have to, you know, be rich, but make sure your clothes are not wrinkly. Make sure that you chew with your mouth closed. Make sure that you sit straight. Make sure that, you know, you brush your teeth. You know, like, make sure you smell nice. This was my circle of influence from my parents. You know, my marriage lasting the amount of time that it's lasted, it's not because it just came out of me. It's what I saw. When I saw my parents, they both passed away. But when I saw them, they would fight, but they never mentioned divorce. Never. You know, their circle of influence was like, you get married, you stay together, and you work things through. And people make mistakes or whatnot, but you work things through. So that's just the way I got brought up. You know, where, you know, my wife, on the other hand, nothing against her, but her whole upbringing was seeing people get divorced. Her parents, her siblings, everybody. So it was just normal. And you don't even realize that on like a cellular level, the people that you've watched growing up. And it could be 20 years later, it could be 30 years later, 40 years later. It's still ingrained in you that, oh, this might be the way. And you have to work so fucking hard with every cell in your body to break that, to break that fucking route.
Yeah, that like way of thinking, that pattern, the stuff that's like ingrained in your mind. And like that is like what you're talking about exists like scientifically too. Like certain memories and certain things from your upbringing have deep etches into your brain that like require, and the deeper it is, the more like stimulus is needed to change it, to rewrite it. You know, it's these neural pathways that get wired over and over and over and over again. It's like a stream or a river that's been going for a long time. If you want to branch off from that stream, you got to dig new ground over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah, man. You know, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, this has been your upbringing, or these have been your friends. But the most beautiful thing is you can make it change, right? You can make it change. You can alter your route. You don't have to stay. Like you and I, we've talked about, you know, like I'm always telling you, guys, Tarun is also one of my no excuses clients. And, you know, he's on my program, but he's a vegan and
Vegetarian.
And I'm always like, bro, you got to get protein. You got to get protein. And then when I talk to him and I'm like, why don't you eat protein? He's like, well, that's just the way I was brought up. It wasn't anything personal. It became personal through what you were taught, you know? So this is what it is, man, you know, but like the thing is at the end of the day, once we're not little kids anymore and we're on our own, we can make our own decisions like, oh, you know, mom and dad, they got divorced and they went about it this way, or my dad did this or that, or my mom acted this way, or my parents followed these religious rules. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe this is my route. And I think to become a self-thinking person is humongous, you know, because just because you grew up in the people in your neighborhood doesn't mean you have to be stuck with them. Just because, you know, like I talk about all the time, like I've had really good friends like in high school or whatnot, like I don't really talk to anymore. Not that because they're bad people, it's just we grew apart. You're allowed to grow apart. You're allowed to, and ideally, outgrow that relationship. And what I do is whenever I outgrow anybody, I invite them with me. Like, hey, Tarun, come on, level up with me. You know, work out with me. You know, make more money with me, so on and so on and so on. I would like to motivate everybody to move up. But if they don't want to, I'm sorry, man, I can't stay. It's nothing against them. I just can't stay. I can't stop my progress in life and my new views, you know, my new ways of life to satisfy you.
Yeah. I think something that's kind of unique about what you said just now, because I think everyone's experienced changing or growing apart from a relationship, a friend, a partner, whatever it is, and realizing you're on two different paths and you're two different mindsets or whatever it is, and just saying, all right, peace, I'm out. But I think it's very rare, or I've never heard of you realizing that you're on a different path from this other person, and rather than being like, okay, it is what it is, moving on, you would reach out to them and invite them to go in this direction with you. I don't think I've ever heard that. That's a very unique thing, I'd say.
That's been actually like my purpose in life. You know, it's like, I think we spoke about this many times on this podcast where I've just been through so much, and then I take all that pain, all that suffering, all those lessons, all those trials, tribulations, everything that I've been through, and then keep on my own 2 feet, take the beating, take the lesson, and then help you guys, my students at the academy, my students at the No Excuses program, and just anyone who comes near me, you know what I mean? Friends and family, acquaintances, is to try to give them my lessons out of love for free, just like this podcast that I'm doing, taking time out of my life, is because I hope somebody listens and they say, you know what? I don't need to hang out with this person anymore today. You know, I'm ready to move on from this bad relationship, this bad marriage. You know, I'm done following this whatever religious belief that doesn't fit my life or does fit my life, or I do need to go that route. Yeah. Whatever it is, right? as long as you're bettering yourself, and like it takes fucking courage. It takes courage to pick the right circle of influence. Because I'll never forget when I was in high school, everybody used to drink. Everybody used to do drugs. And remember, I was in gangs. I never drank, I never did drugs. All my friends got tattoos. I don't care. You want to have a tattoo, have a tattoo. But me personally, like being Jewish, like was against my religion. So I thought I was learning not to get a tattoo. All my friends, even other Jewish kids that were in the gang, got tattoos. I was able to think on my own, but it takes fucking courage. When somebody passes you a bottle, for you to say no, it takes courage. It takes balls because you're singled out. For years, dating my wife, like while we were married, like I wouldn't drink at all, zero. And she'd be like, oh, Yaniv, you're so boring. You never drink. And I didn't care what she had to say. My brothers, everybody, like they would always try to like bully me to go their route, but I knew it wasn't my route. I never budged. I always stood strong on my own 2 feet and said, I'm associated with you people because you're my family or now you're my wife or whatnot, but I will not follow your lead. I have the courage to stay on my own 2 feet and then bring in others to my side. Get others not to drink. Get others not to do drugs. Get others to start working out. Get others to start giving praise to God. Get others to have gratitude and have grace. Get others to follow their dream. The other day we were talking, I think it was the last podcast we were talking about the Lambo.
Yeah.
Was it the last podcast or was it just me talking in class?
It might have been the last or the one before, but yeah.
Well, I was saying like, when we were kids, none of us played, with like a shitty car. We all wanted like something cool. We didn't know the price of it. You didn't know how much a Lambo cost or a freaking monster truck, with the big wheels. You just thought it was cool. Like, I was like, oh, like no one even told you it was cool, right? It just looked cool.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's cool. That's cool. And you played and you had fun or whatever. When you played with like stick figures, like, you played with like, all of them were like jacked, and like, like G.I. Joes and freaking whatever, Batman, Superman, they're all like in good shape. So I want people to not give up on their dreams. So if I hang around you and you're chasing your dreams, like, man, I want to be fucking jacked. Just like when I was a kid, I was thinking about, being a superhero. I want to make money. I want to have this. I want to have that. That's the circle of influence I want to have, because when I have days where I feel like just kind of like giving up or not moving forward, you know what I mean? You inspire me and we inspire each other, and we're constantly pushing each other and elevating each other to have a better life, and to step it up. Something I talk about with like married people is one of the most dangerous things you can do when you're married is to hang around people who are divorced.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a big problem because not because the divorced people are bad. They're not bad people. They went through their trials, tribulations, whatever happened. But what happens is that subconsciously, if you have 5 close friends, and 4 of them are divorced, it's going to be normal in your brain.
Yeah, if it wasn't a possibility before, it slowly becomes that. Because
right, like it's just normal. It's normalized.
Yeah.
Right, it's normalized. So before you know it, things go, bad with you and your spouse, or you're having hardships, and the first thing you're thinking about is like, fuck it. So-and-so is divorced, so-and-so is divorced, so-and-so is divorced. Fuck it, I'll get a divorce too, right? But if you hung around people, other couples, other 4 couples, and they were all married, and they all are transparent and say, hey, yeah, we've been through a hard time, but we didn't quit. Then when you go through a hard time with your spouse, you'd be like, oh, well, Tarun never quit. Johnny never quit. Frank never quit. Why the fuck am I going to quit?
Yeah.
I got to fight this through. Right? So this is huge, man.
You mentioned earlier that how it takes courage to choose the circle of influence you have around you. and also to not get drawn into the negative parts of what may be around you. And so you mentioned like you grew up not drinking in these kinds of really harsh environments, but I was wondering, what are their like responses to that? Like so you're out there doing all the things, whatever you guys did, right? And you did everything, all the fighting, whatever with them. And when it came time for them to like party or whatever, drinking drugs, whatever, and you'd always say no to the tattoos or whatever. Like, what was their response to you denying this thing that they were all doing? And, how did you respond to those?
So it always starts with like a little bit of joking around, don't be a pussy, don't kill the party, don't be lame, whatever is coming out of their mouth. And then, then it comes out with like little jokes, where like they'll make fun of you because you're not doing what they're doing. But again, it takes courage knowing that you're doing the right thing to stand on your own 2 feet. So like when people are telling me whatever it is that they're telling me, and I know I'm doing the right thing, I don't give a shit. Like it doesn't even bother me at all. It's like, it don't matter, And I remember my brother all the time, like we would go to, like, man, why you got to be so uptight? Why you got to be so uptight? Just have a drink, man, loosen up. Been to parties like, yo, hit a line, a Coke, just relax, fucking smoke this joint, do this, do that. And it's like, nah, I'm good. And I don't even make them feel bad. I'm not like, oh, you're a piece of shit because you're doing this. Like, that's your lifestyle, that's your lifestyle. You know what I mean? I might not agree with it, but I'm not here to dictate your fucking lifestyle. Yeah.
I think that's a big part of why people respond badly if you don't want to join in whatever it is that they're doing. They feel like you feel like you're better than them by not participating in it, and you're almost like taking the high ground and stuff, even without saying anything, just by the act of refusing to do whatever it is that they're doing. Correct. Like it's really easy for people to feel attacked like that.
So that's happened a million times, and I've lost tens and tens of friends, students, everything, because they're like, fuck, man, like Sensei's on another level. Sensei's this, Sensei's that, or Yaniv is this, Yaniv is that. And it just comes to a point where it's like, hey, we're not on the same vibration. We're not on the same route. We're not on the same alignment. You know what I mean? I don't wish you bad. I wish you the best, but I'm not going to be hanging out with you, and some people, like, for example, like if somebody is a paying student and they have bad characteristics, like I'll bring it up to them, which is very rare because most business owners, not just martial arts, they're going to do whatever they can to keep the customer. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's a business and they want to make money. Yeah. But I have a problem where I just can't keep my mouth shut. You know what I mean? When I see people that are coming into my influence, so this is my circle right here, this is my academy, or you're coming into my program, or you want to hang around me, well, now you got to act a certain way.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm going to bring it up to your attention. And I'll try to do as much as I can to help you. But if you keep going that route, you can keep your money and go a different route because we're not aligned. You know what I mean? And your way of life, to me, it's toxic.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel like you're paying the money and that's all there is to it, when in reality, things like money just kind of get your foot in the door, and there's more to it than that. Like you have to continually earn your way, which is probably different than most. I haven't been to any other academies, but I imagine it's far and few between that they have those kinds of practices where you'll actually let go of students because they don't, adhere to the standard, even just the minimum standard of like etiquette, for being a person, interacting with other people.
So, for me, like as an academy owner, I won't even promote somebody. They could be fucking killer. They could tap me out, right? I won't promote them unless they have good characteristics.
Yeah, I've seen that first person.
I just won't do it. Yeah. I won't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I have a guy that comes here. He's a good friend of mine. He's not a bad person, but he's not consistent. And the other day, somebody asked me, he's like, when are you going to promote this guy? And I said, not until he's consistent. Yeah. His inconsistency doesn't align with my views. So my views is, if you're consistent and you're technically sound and you have a good attitude and you're a good person outside the dojo, then I'll promote you when the time is right. But it's not just about fighting for me, you know. So me being the leader here, you know, I want to show an example as the circle of influence is like, hey, you want somebody at a high caliber to look at you and respect you and to promote you or to give you credit or to give you an attaboy, you have to earn it.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a message the other day, and I don't want to mention names, but the guy says to me, says, what's it going to take for you to give somebody a compliment? You know? And I said, it will take that for me to give that person a compliment for that person to actually be leveling up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just going to give you a trophy for being alive. You know what I mean? Or an attaboy. Because then, you know, we've talked about this before. You just water down. It means nothing.
Yeah.
But when you get a compliment from me, you know you've earned it. You know I didn't bullshit you. You know I didn't cheat you. You know it's true. You know, and you know you've earned it, whatever it is. If it's your belt, if it's like, hey, you're looking good, whatever it is. I'll be in public, bro. I'll see fucking men that I don't know with a gut, and I'll just smack them in the stomach. You know what I mean? It's
Strangers.
fucking strange. My guy looks at me like, what the hell? I go, what the fuck is that? You pregnant? You know? And the guy looks at me, he's like, you know, he's like, they don't know what to do. You know, what the fuck they're going to do anyways? You know what I mean? It's just crazy, right? But like, bro, I've walked to people like smoke, especially when I was younger. People used to smoke. I used to go out a lot. Smoke, I'll go right in front of them, take the cigarette, throw it right on the floor. Right out of their mouth.
Jeez.
You know? And I'll step on it and be like, what the fuck you doing? I'm like, you want cancer?
Have you gotten into fights like that?
Nah, bro, motherfuckers don't want none of this. Baby. They don't want none of this shit.
Oh.
But, you know, it's for real. You know what I mean? Like, your circle of influence is one of your biggest investments. And the other day, I had a lady reach out to me, and she's thinking about training. And then she says to me, well, I don't think I can afford it. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, bitch, I'm like, you cannot not afford it. You understand?
Yeah.
You cannot afford not to do it. You know, I don't understand, you know, like, these people's minds are so corrupted that they don't understand. They'll spend a fucking $8 on a Starbucks. They'll spend $15 a day on McDonald's. They'll spend money on shows and on whatever. And I have no problem with that. You can spend your money however you like. But this is where these people's mindset at. I don't want to be around these people.
Yeah.
I want to be around people saying, hey, you know what? Money's tight at this moment. Let me spend it on what will help me improve.
Yeah. I think a lot about that mindset comes from, like what we were talking about earlier, the circle of influence at a very young age. If you grew up not seeing things like fitness and self-development as a priority, but like a thing you can do if you have extra money, then you're not going to view it as a priority growing up. And, you know, the more people, it feels like it's becoming cultural almost at this point to view that as like an extracurricular, you know,
right.
Being fit or, you know, self-developing, self-growth, reading, all these beneficial things to yourself. People view it as hobbies rather than something you have to do, you know, like brushing your teeth. Yeah. Brushing your teeth or taking a shower. Like it's just something that you just have to do.
Some of these motherfuckers don't even do that. I'll be at the gym sometimes like, damn, motherfucker, no one ever taught you to fucking deodorant?
Yeah.
You know, wash up. It's crazy. And again, going back to circle of influence, no one's ever taught them.
Yeah.
You know, like, literally, like, no one said, hey, don't chew with your fucking mouth open. You know what I mean? Like, motherfucker, it's just fucking disgusting, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you know, as a female, you know, when you sit, cross your legs. You know, do this, do that. Like, sit straight. Don't eat with your hands. All this comes from a circle of influence. And, you know, we were talking about just now investing. I just went and picked up two new books. And I go to check out, and it was like $50-something. And my kids were with me, and they're like, man, $50 for a book? I said, listen to me. I said, yes, that's expensive for a book. I said, but if I take one thing out of that book, one positive thing, one positive habit, one way, different way of looking at things, maybe one thing to add me for investing, maybe one thing to add for my relationship, for myself, anything. Is it worth $50? It's worth $1 gazillion, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how fucking retarded people are. You know what I mean? And I had to like switch my children's mindset. Like, hey, you always invest into yourself. Always. It's like education, you know, of any kind does not take any extra space, but it can always help you. My son was telling me one day, he's like, you know, every Friday night Shabbat, you know, we do Shabbat dinner and we sit as a family and I ask each kid, hey, how you doing? What's going on? You know, so we have a family conversation. And I said, how's school? And he's like, oh, I have good grades. So he goes, but one class I'm failing. And I said, what class is that? He goes, sign language. And I go, why are you failing sign language? He goes, oh, I hate it. I don't like it. And I'm like, well, why don't you like it? He's like, oh, I'll never use it. I said, who told you that stupid ass thing you just said? He goes, when am I going to use it? I said, well, let me tell you. I said, maybe one day, you know, you own an academy or you run a business or you're doing sales or whatever. And you're talking to this customer. And this customer is a big dog. He's a big millionaire or billionaire or whatever, right? Or you're talking to a female or whatever, something important, right? And then they mention to you that their brother or their kid or whatever is a fucking mute. And you say, you're kidding. And the kid is standing there or the brother or whatever, and you fucking start throwing gang signs at that motherfucker. And he starts throwing gang signs back at you, right? And
That's a deal right there.
And the guy looks at you like, wow.
Yeah.
You never know what you learn. Any education, if it's sign language, if it's a history book, if it's something you read on in a mentorship book, if it's something from religion, when you'll be able to use it as a tool to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have a good conversation, to talk about a story, whatever. It doesn't take any extra space. Study, learn, educate. You know, like, going back circle of influence, like, when I was in school, no one ever told me these things. So I'm sharing this with the world. I fucked around in high school. I fucked around in college. You know, like, I was a troublemaker. I wish somebody told me, hey, this knowledge one day can be useful for you. It's not just about making money. It's about having a deep conversation. Maybe you're looking at an art piece and you understand it because you read about it in college or in high school or whatever. Or you're sitting there with your girlfriend's parents and they bring up some history and you're like, you don't sound like a dumbass.
Yeah.
Because you're fucking uneducated. Right? So like, this comes back, circle of influence is not just our friends. It's not just our parents. It's not just our teachers and mentors. It's not just social media. It's what we read. Or what we don't read.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So every part of your life today, more than ever, is imperative to choose wisely. What are we putting in our minds? Is the people around us fit or all fat? If everybody's fat, you know what I mean? And you're just okay, you're like, oh, I'm King Kong. Like, no, you're still fucking whack as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And my wife always like, oh, Yaniv, you look great. I'm like, I don't compare myself to normal people. I just don't. Like, if I'm a 9, I'm looking at people who are a 9.5. I'm a 9.5, I'm looking at people who are a 9.8. Because I always have this thing in my head. The largest room in the world is a room for improvement.
I like that.
Yeah?
I like that.
The largest room in the world is a room for improvement. So, in order to improve, somebody has to influence you. Someone has to show you the way. Maybe you're interested in real estate. Okay, well, what are you know, like someone, a book, a human. So if you surround yourself with smart people, you surround yourself with hardworking people, honorable people, that's who you become.
Yeah.
That's who you become. You know, you surround yourself with a bunch of dumbasses, ignorant motherfuckers, and it could be anything. Like, people could be smart book, but they could be stupid racist motherfuckers.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of them out there.
So like, it could be, people can be fit, but be dumb in another way. People can be million different things. So when I choose anybody around me, I'm looking at their fitness level. I'm looking at their mindset. I'm looking at their education. I'm looking at everything. Like, a lot of people say, oh, like, you don't really hang around with other, like, different black belts or different schools. It's like, They have nothing to do with me. You know, I don't have anything against them. God bless every one of them, but they have nothing to do with me. The people I hang around with don't just do jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is just part of their life. It's not their whole life. They have families, they're business people, they're this, they're that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people think of like being smart or talented in one very narrow, strict way. Like growing up, I would be good in school in certain things, and people would be like, "Oh, you're smart," but in my head, I would know I'm like, "Oh, but I'm not good at learning this thing." Like, "Oh, I'm terrible at that game right there." So everyone who's good at that game, they're smart to me, and I kind of saw early on that there's so many different ways to be smart that you can't ever really be smart. Like your best option is to get as many people around you that are smart in individual different avenues. So collectively you have a type of broad intelligence.
Like a cabinet.
Yeah, like a cabinet.
The president does, right? He brings the best people around him, right? So it's actually a funny story. So I used to train one of my best clients, you know, guys like a dad to me, Greg Gumbel, right? Right now he's not training. He's going through some family stuff. But anyways, he was telling me a story about Michael Jordan, right? And he was saying Michael Jordan was known to be the best player, you know, best basketball player in the world. And he was like a god, right? But then one day Michael Jordan decided to open up a team, to own a basketball team. And the basketball team was doing horrible. So they're like, how can the basketball team that's owned by Michael Jordan be horrible? It's because his circle of influence was the wrong circle. He surrounded himself with yes men. Like, he surrounded himself with everybody that would be like, oh, Michael Jordan, you're God, right? Like, you're the best. Who am I to argue with Michael Jordan? But Michael Jordan was a basketball player, not a business owner. You understand?
Yeah.
So he didn't surround himself with the right people. So the team failed. The team didn't do well. So this is important, man. In every part, your circle of influence is not just the people you hang around with and go have a drink on the weekend, or the girl you marry, or your parents. It's who you do business with, who you listening to, who you hiring. Every one of these things will either elevate you or bring you down. You know, for me, just besides just the benefits of, you know, like health and fitness and money and relationships, is also being lighthearted. You know, like, I really enjoy people who can make me laugh and people who are, you know, like, just not doomsday people. You know, when I hang around people that are like doomsday, that's why I don't really never hang around anybody who's a conspiracy theorist, right? Because what is their mind always thinking? When you're a conspiracy theorist, your mind's always thinking,
how's it going to go wrong?
Right, like somebody's out there to get us. Well, you know what? I don't want to believe that. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying I know it all, but I don't want to live my life in such a way that I have to think like, oh, the government's after me, the election is rigged, you know, fucking UFOs, this, that, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, some might be true, some might not. I don't care.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're thinking about those things, how much control or can you affect of those things? Like, even if it were true,
right,
that there are lizards running the government, what does knowing that affects,
right,
you know, your everyday life?
correct.
Are you going to go and find them and kick them out? Or, you know, what benefit is there to you other than giving yourself stress and anxiety over things that, one, you may never know whether it's true or not,
right,
and two, even if it were true, what can you actually do about it?
It's fucking irrelevant. So this is the problem. These people waste all their time and energy, you know, worrying about stupid shit. Meanwhile, they don't see that their wife or their husband is being neglected. Meanwhile, they don't see their children, you know, not going the right route. Meanwhile, they don't see they're letting go of their health, and so on and so on and so on. Like, focus on your immediate circle. And it starts with you. You focus on yourself. You take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. And then you pour into others, which starts with your spouse, and then your children, and then your siblings, and your parents, and then your community, right? But if you don't start with yourself, nothing works. So one day I met this guy, and he's super successful financially and very smart individual intellectually on paper. So, but the guy looks like shit and his health is garbage. And I sat by myself and I was thinking, I said, this guy is really not smart. Because if you are avoiding your health and you're avoiding your fitness, and if you can look in the mirror and be disgusted by yourself and still think that you're going the right route, you're a fucking moron. There is no way, right, that you can look in the mirror if you're fucking disgusting and be like, oh, I'm doing a good job. Because you're not. You're failing. You're failing your number one asset, which is yourself, your body, your mind. There's no way that if you look like shit and feel like shit, that your spouse or your children look at you in any positive manner. So when I realized that situation, I realized that it's not that smart. You know what I mean? And that he's not the circle of influence I want to be around. The circle of influence I want to be around, is people who are balanced, and putting effort and pouring into every part of their life. Earlier, you were saying bring the best people around you, like, oh, this one might be good at this and this or this. That's fine when you want to run a business. I need you a best accountant, best lawyer, best whatever, right? But when I'm looking for my life influence, don't give me the best attorney as my friend and he goes and does fucking cocaine on the weekends and fucks hookers all the time.
Yeah.
Don't bring that person around me because that's not who I want influencing me. Don't bring me the guy who just works 24/7 and neglects his family. Don't bring me the guy who's with his family 24/7 and doesn't go and hustle, right? Don't bring me the guy who's with his family, works hard, but neglects his own body. I need somebody in my life who does it all.
Yeah, the balanced people.
You know what I mean? Who does it all. And find a way, these people find a way to do it all. We all have the same 24 hours, but these people that I'm talking about have high standards and they don't settle and they make time. They make time for what's important. These people wake up early in the morning and get the shit done. They stay up late, get it done. They'll do whatever it takes. I got a buddy of mine. This guy's a single dad to 3 kids. He's up at 4 a.m, training people, working out, goes to his regular job, leaves his regular job, goes picks up his kids because he's a single dad, takes them to sports, cooks them dinner, finishes that, goes back to the gym, trains more people, and you say to yourself like, fuck, how can you do it all? He does it. And he never complains. And he always does it with a smile on his face. These are the people I want to be around.
Do you think people that are balanced like that could ever reach like the pinnacle, like the top of one thing? Like, do you think it's possible to be balanced in that way, but also become the best at something?
It's a difficult. He wants to be part of our circle of influence over here. That's it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. I think the only way to do that is if like you excelled in your youth, right? Like you gave all your effort into your business or your sport or whatever it is, right? And you excelled at it and became the best at it. But then once you decided, hey, I want to start a family or I want to this or that, it's impossible to be the best at something and still find time for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because to be the best, you must understand. We're talking about jiu-jitsu now, for example. There's a guy who's super athletic and he trains 6 hours a day, right? Well, you're also super athletic and you're just as good as him, but you train 2 hours a day because your other 4 hours, you're busy maybe running your business, spending time with your wife, your kids. Who do you think is going to get better? It's literally more hours on the mat. Same thing with business. Same thing with anything, right? Like, so And that's very important. Like my teacher, Cyborg, he dedicated his whole life to jiu-jitsu. He's my jiu-jitsu mentor, but he's not my life mentor because I don't want the same outcome that he has. The outcome that he has and wanted and wants is to be the best in jiu-jitsu. And he made it, and he's the best at it. But the outcome that I want was to be a great dad, to be a great businessman, to be a great husband, and to be a great in jiu-jitsu. I'll never be the best of any of them because I can't dedicate everything I have just to one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you see some dads, they're like at every single practice, you know, they pick up their kids. It's like, okay, well, who's working? Or who's doing this? Or who's doing that, right? So it's impossible.
I guess it comes down to what you want to sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice your family, your work, or whatever it is?
You're going to have to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
That's why I suggest, especially all the young people, like kill it when you're young. Fucking kill it. Work as hard as you can. Study as much as you can. And this way, you built yourself up so then when you start a family.
You already have that in the bank.
Right, like you already, you know, like with jiu-jitsu. You know, if you were able to start jiu-jitsu at a young age, you took it serious and you became a world champion and you built yourself a name and clout, whatever, great. But now as you got a family, it gets harder and harder and harder. Well, your wife needs you, your kids need you, so on and so on. You can't just go and compete all around the world. That's why people who travel all the time for their business or their sport or whatever, their divorce rate is even higher. You know? So it's like, what do you want? You know? What do you want? What do you want out of your life? And, you know, I think we've talked about it before. In order to find out what you want, you got to make a life goal. And then break that life goal into business, work, family, children, fitness, whatever. And they all have to be pointing at the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, guys, pick the right friends, read the right books, you know, and even from the wrong circle of influence, look at these people and have them teach you what not to do. You know, it's not just what to do. It's sometimes it's what not to do. Oh, I'm not going to do that because I don't want that outcome. I don't want to look like that. I don't want that relationship. I don't want blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So it's very important to spend time investing in what you put into your mind and who you put into your life, you know, because they will impact you. You know, I'll just finish with one last thing. Today at the gym, I ran into this guy that I know, and he's like, man, how old are you? And I go, I'm going to be 44. And he goes, get the fuck out of here. And I go, why? He's like, oh, I thought you were like 32. I was like, oh, man, thanks. You know, I was like, I train hard daily, you know, whatever. He's like, man, he goes, I can't believe you're 44. And I go, yeah, not just 44. I said, I'm married for 20 years and I got 5 children. The guy almost like had a heart attack. He just couldn't believe it. He goes, what? How? And I was like, and then the next thing was, all with the same woman? And I said, yes. And he was just in total shock. And the funny thing is, I can't tell you how many times I get stopped and people ask me, oh, you have kids? Yes. How many? 5. They're in shock. And then the next thing is, all by the same woman? This is always a question that people ask me. Well, the way I was raised, that was normal. Like, I never thought to like, oh, okay, I'm going to have 2 kids with her, 3 kids with her, da-da-da-da. That wasn't in my foresight. I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
You know, can it happen? It can, but that's not what
You want it for your life.
Right. You know what I mean? Like and also it wasn't my circle of influence.
Right.
You know, like there's people like that's just what they've seen their whole life. You know, so pick wisely. Guys, episode 19. Guys, please follow, share, like, follow us on Instagram, Yaniv Rosenberg 1. And guys, remember, you need any help with fitness, nutrition, workout programming, DM me. I'll take care of you. You can hop on my No Excuses program. If you're down here in South Florida and you're interested in training jiu-jitsu, see me at yrjujitsu.com and let's get you started. Yeah. Wishing you guys the best, and we'll see you guys in a few weeks. Usa.